Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a wall decor piece that I made out of air dry clay of a sun and moon that I think turned out really great. I'll include a full list of materials in the description below. And I also wanted to take this time and thank everybody who has followed me on YouTube so far. I reached 100 subscribers this week, so thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel and watched my videos, liked my videos, shared them. Thank you so much. So without further ado, let's get started on today's DIY. We're gonna start by making the moon piece first. Put some parchment paper or wax paper down, and then grab a big chunk of air dry clay and start flattening it out with a rolling pin, or in my case, I'm using a wine bottle because I don't have a rolling pin. So just flatten that out until you get it to the size you need. Once your air dry clay is nice, flat, and smooth, then you can grab a bowl or a lid to cut out a circle. I'm using a bowl that measures 5 inches in diameter. So I'm using an exacto knife to go around the bowl and give me a nice circle. And when you're happy with your circle, what you're going to do is grab the same bowl or lid that you used to make the circle, and you're going to position it on the edge of the circle so that it gives you a moon shape. So just play around with it until you're happy with the shape. And then what I did is pressed on the bowl a little bit and it came right off. Then you can use an exacto knife to trim off any excess air dry clay, and also use a little bit of water on your fingers to smooth everything out. Once your moon is exactly how you want it to look, then the next step is to create the hole from which we're going to hang it. And I would recommend making this hole about a 1/2 inch from the edge. And I'm using this clay tool, but you could also use a pencil or a skewer or anything like that would work as well. Now this moon could very well be done and be left to dry, but I thought it'd be fun to add a little face to it. So I'm using some air dry clay and I'm rolling it out and making sure I have a very skinny strand to make an eye, a nose, and a mouth. Once you have your air dry clay rolled out and as skinny as you possibly can make it without breaking it, you're going to start breaking pieces off and forming the eye and the nose and the mouth. So I'm going to go ahead and let this roll so that you can see how I did it. And when you're happy with the way the face looks, you're going to start carefully tapping on each of the pieces so that they start sticking to the moon. And you'll also see that I use a little bit of water on my fingers to smooth out any cracks on the surface. Once you're happy with your moon, you're going to go ahead and set that aside to dry. It does take about 72 hours to fully dry, and that's what I did. So while you're waiting for that to dry, you can start on the sun. So to make the sun, it's going to work a little bit different than the moon because of the rays. So to start the sun, what I did is I grabbed a lid that was pretty big and I measured it, and it's about 10 inches in diameter. So what I did is I traced it onto cardstock. And then I used a ruler to find the center of the circle and make lines going horizontally and vertically. Once you've drawn your lines perpendicular and meeting in the middle, your circle should be divided into 4 equal quarter parts. Then I eyeballed about half of each quarter going around the circumference, and I made a little tick mark around the circle. And then I placed my ruler along the tick marks and then going through the center of my circle to create a line and divide my circle into eighths. Now that your circle is divided into eighths, these lines are going to be your guide for making the rays of your sun. So what I did here is I started making triangles going off of each line and then sort of having them connect in the middle. And once all of the triangles are drawn in and you're happy with them, then you're going to draw a circle connecting all of them. And we're going to use this circle a little bit later on. So it is important that you draw that in. Once you're done with that, you're going to use an exacto knife or scissors to cut along the edges of the triangle to make your stencil. Once your stencil is ready to go, you're going to grab a big chunk of air dried clay and flatten it out and make sure that it's nice and flat and smooth, and make sure that it is big enough for your stencil to fit onto. Then you're going to take your stencil and place it on top of your air dried clay, making sure that it doesn't move on you. And then you're going to take your exacto knife and cut along the edges of the triangles, which are going to be the rays of the sun. Then what we're going to do is cut out the circle that we drew. So basically cutting off the triangles so that we have a nice little circle. And then we're going to use this circle to create an indentation onto our air dried clay to give it some detail and make it look more like a sun. Set your cardstock circle on top of your air dry clay, and then you're going to use a tool. I'm using a clay tool here, but you could use a skewer or a pencil to create a little indentation. So what you're going to do is lightly press along the edge of the circle into the air dry clay, and I am dipping my tool into a little bit of water just to avoid any large chunks coming off of the air dry clay. So just be careful, you're only pressing a little bit, you're not poking all the way through the air dry clay. Use a little bit of water to smooth the edges along the indentation that we made, and also along any of the edges and triangles that we also cut out. Once you're happy with the way the sun looks, then we're going to start putting our face onto the sun, similar to how we did the moon, except this one is going to have two eyes and they're going to be open because it's a sun and it represents the daytime and we're awake during the daytime. Also, don't forget to add your hole from which we're going to hang our sun, and make sure that you put it in between rays, otherwise it's going to be very hard to hang. Again, make sure to carefully press all of your parts into your sun so that everything sticks together. And then once that is done, you can go ahead and set that aside to dry for about 72 hours. Once both of your pieces are completely dry, you can go ahead and paint the front and back with acrylic paint. I'm using a mix of white and beige for both of these pieces. While I waited for my paint to dry, I ended up crocheting around this metal ring that I found at Michael's. I was originally looking for a wooden one, but I couldn't find one. So I thought I'd show you how I crocheted around this metal ring. So to crochet around this ring, I'm using a 6.5 millimeter crochet needle and 3 millimeter macrame. So to start, what you're going to do is loop your macrame around your crochet needle, and then you're going to stitch one and make sure that you pull the knot tight, and then you're going to put your needle through the hoop, and then you're going to pull the string out, and then you should have two little loops on your crochet needle. And then you're going to feed your crochet needle some more macrame and then pull it through both loops. And then you're just going to repeat this process around your ring. Once you reach the end, you're going to poke your needle through that very first chain that you made, and then you're going to grab some macrame and pull it through.
and then you're also going to pull it through the loop that was already on your crochet needle, and then you're going to cut your string and then pull it all the way through, pull, and make sure that it's secure. Cut the excess macrame, and then your hoop is ready to hang your pieces from. The final step in all of this is to put it together and make it a wall hanging. So I'm using some 3mm macrame cord that I'm going to be putting through the little holes that we made in our sun and our moon. And then I'm also going to be attaching it to our little ring. And what I'm doing here is trying to decide how I want these pieces to hang. And I decided that I wanted the moon to hang a little bit lower than the sun. So I cut my macrame cord to the size that I needed to do that. And I also added some wooden beads as a decorative element, as you'll see. And then here I decided to hang it so that it'd be easier to measure out how long I needed my string on the moon to be. And then once I was happy with how it looked, I tied a knot through the ring and cut off the extra macrame.
Alright guys, that is all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Alright, until next week. Bye!